For those of you who were absent, we did the worksheet, The Great Hawaiian Race, today. We're going to let you look at the worksheet as I read the information, and I will do the notes, and you can do the notes on your worksheet, and then you can finish the rest of it, part 2 and part 3. So let's read the context of the situation. Lanny and George each claim to have the fastest sailboats in Hawaii. They decided to settle the dispute with a 10-mile sailboat race starting from the island of Maui and ending on the Big Island, Hawaii. During the race, Lanny is able to race her boat at a speed of 12 miles per hour. George, on the other hand, had difficulty with his sail and was only able to go at a speed of 10 miles per hour. So it's always easier to start with a chart. On our chart here, you can see Lanny. Lanny is going at 12 miles per hour, so if we make our chart, 1 times 12 is 12, 2 times 12 is 24, etc., until we fill out our chart. Now we stopped at 60 because that was how far the race was. Do the exact same thing with George, and you can see that he's going 10 miles per hour, so we fill out our chart, and it takes him 6 hours to get to 60 miles. Now, after we do that, we now want to come up with the last row, which we've done in class, which says X. So what would end up happening, since we multiplied by 12, you'll see to find the rule is what we call it. We'll multiply by X. So on Lanny, we'll go X times 12. On George, we'll go X times 10. So Lanny's rule will be 12X. George's rule will be 10x. Now that we have the table, we're going to draw the graph. So let's look at the graph. We're going to draw our x and y axis in quadrant 1 since we can't have negative numbers. We're going to make the x-axis time, the y-axis, we're going to make the distance. So we scale this. We have 20 lines, so we have to figure out how are we going to scale it. What numbers are we going to put on the axis? Now we've done this in class, so we look at the biggest numbers are George. He went 6 hours and 60 miles, so we end up going 6 and then 60 for the biggest Y. So we label the numbers, and now we have the scale. We're going to plot the points for Lanny, plot the points for George. Notice it is not continuous. It does not go on forever. It is continuous where we connect the dots. Now we have to find the parent function. We always get confused on this. It's the most easy function, which is y equals x. A lot of times it doesn't matter if the original line, if it is a line, the parent function is y equals x. It doesn't matter if it's negative, positive. It's going the parent, the most simple function is y equals x. So now it asks us to compare that rule with Lanny and George. Lanny has a rule of y equals 12x since we multiplied by 12. And remember, this is on the bottom of our table. George has a rule of y equals 10x. So how is this different from what we wrote on our table? It is an equation or a function, so we had to put the y equals or f of x equals. Now to ask, what is the slope of the linear function of each? So we see that parent function has a slope of 1, which is understood. If you have an x, you have 1. Lonnie's slope is going to be 12. Don't include the x here. It's just the number times the x. And then George's rate is 10. What are the context of this? Remember, the slope is miles per hour, and it represents, in the problem situation, the rate in miles per hour. Slope is always the rate because it's rise over run. What are the y-intercepts? The y-intercept, of course, is where it crosses the y-axis. It's when x equals 0. So therefore, y equals 0. and that, in the context of the problem, is the starting point. What's the x-intercept? That's when y is going to equal 0. So notice that since the origin was our point, x equals 0 also, which is the start of our race. Now we want, the last question says, predict the effect if we change, and notice that if we go 8 miles per hour, we're going to plot that, a yellow line, and it's going to give us that George would now win, and it would take Lanny longer if she went 8 miles per hour. So I want you to turn to page 2 and look at part 2, and you're going to do the rest of the worksheet on your own. Have a good day.